The next case I'm going to talk about is Gitlow versus New York in 1925. Gitlow, a socialist, was arrested for distributing copies of a left-wing manifesto that called for the establishment of socialism through strikes and class action of any form. Gitlow was convicted under a state's criminal anarchy law, which punished advocating the overthrow of the government by force. At his trial, Gitlow argued since there was no resulting action flowing from the manifesto's publication, the statute penalized utterances without propensity to incitement of concrete action. The New York courts had decided that anyone who advocated the doctrine of violent revolution violated the law. So the question here was if the New York law punishing advocacy to overthrow the government by force was an unconstitutional violation of the Free Speech Clause of the First Amendment. There were two issues here. First, does the First Amendment apply to the states? And the Supreme Court said the answer to this question was yes. Based on the Due Process Clause of the 14th Amendment, states are subject to the First Amendment. Second, can New York ban Gitlow's speech even though there was no imminent action? The answer to this question again was yes, because some speech has such a tendency to be dangerous it can be banned. This was known as the dangerous tendency test. Good to know for life and for the exam. This is the case where the First Amendment was officially incorporated. The decision was clarified in 1969 in a case involving the KKK, where the court argued that speech that endorses lawless action cannot be punished unless such an action is imminent. Final case is a brief one here I want to talk about in the case of Texas v. Johnson in 1989. This case attempted to answer the question of whether flag burning could be banned. In this case, the court decided that flag burning was in fact constitutionally protected speech allowable under the First Amendment. The next part I want to talk about was freedom of religion. In the beginning, many of the early colonies had designated official churches, which believers and non-believers alike were required to attend and support with their taxes. But at the time of the Revolution, a large variety of religions had settled in America. The big case here is Lemon v. Kurtzman all the way in 1971, and this is where the court established the Lemon test, the question of neutrality, basically here. The three parts of this test to decide whether a policy violated the separation of church and state are, number one, does the law have a significant secular, i.e. non-religious, purpose? Number two, does it not have the primary effect of advancing or inhibiting religion? And number three, does this law not foster excessive entanglement between government and religion? So again, does the law have a significant secular purpose? Does it not have the primary effect of advancing or inhibiting religion? And does it not foster excessive entanglement between government and religion? If the answer to all three of these questions is yes, then the law can pass. If you answer no to any of those three questions, it's a double negative in a couple cases, but whatever, then the law has to be struck down because it violates the separation of church and state. Another major issue that goes on a lot here is the idea of whether school prayer is legal. The courts have consistently asserted that prayer in schools is unconstitutional and not allowed under any circumstances. This includes at football games and other after-school events. It doesn't matter if the prayer is non-denominational or supposedly inclusive of all religions. What is allowed is a non-religious moment of silence, as long as the school makes clear it is for quiet reflection and does not reference any religion or prayer, which many schools currently observe. One question students often ask here is, what about student-sponsored religious organizations in public schools? Well, the answer to this is that they're allowed to exist as long as they aren't happening during school hours and any faculty involvement is purely administrative or supervisory. You're allowed to have a faculty member make sure people are safe, they can fill out paperwork, things like that, but they can't be actively involved in the activities of the club itself. So, for example, we had Fellowship of Christian Athletes back in high school. And yeah, they met before school. I think it was once a week or maybe once every other week, something like that. There was a teacher in the room, but he had to sit quietly and let the students take the lead. He was just there to sort of make sure everyone was okay, supervise, whatever they did, things like that. Cannot be involved, but you can use it as long as it's not during school hours.